At how to graph things in standard form. The best way to graph these in standard form is to basically plug in a 0 for x, find out what y is, plug in a 0 for y, and find out what x is. And it's really the x and y intercept we're finding here. So, for example, we're going to go 4 times 0 plus y equals 0. And we get y equals 0 because 4 times 0 is 0. So when I plug in 0 for x, I get 0 for y. So that's 1 point right there. 0, 0. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to plug in my 0 for y. So I get 4x plus 0 equals 0. So 4x equals 0. So divide both sides by 4. Interesting. X equals 0. So I know it goes just, that's the x and the y intercept in this case. This is going to be very hard to graph in standard form without figuring out what the slope is. In this case, it will be -4 and 1, or 4, -1. All right, let's look at number 3 and see if we've got a little bit of a better example here. We're going to plug in a 0 for x plus y equals -3. Remember, it's finding a point. So I already know that x is 0, and I'm trying to figure out what my y is. I get y equals -3 in this case. So I'm going to go x is 0, y is -3. That gives me my y-intercept. Now I want to find my x-intercept. To find the x-intercept, we want y to equal 0. So I'm going to go x plus 0 equals -3. So x equals -3 in this case. So remember, I put in a 0 for y. When I came out with -3. So that's my other point. I'm going to go -3, 0, and I can connect these, and I have my line in standard form. I'm going to do one more similar to this, and then I'm going to do a couple of exceptions. If I'm looking at 5 right here, I'm going to plug in a 0 for x. So 7 times 0 plus 2y equals -10. So I get 2y equals -10. Again, remember I plugged in that 0 for x. Sorry, I wanted to make sure we remember that. Divide by 2, y equals -5. So when I have 0 for x, I have -5 for y. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to plug in a 0 for y. And so when I'm thinking of what that point will be, I know that the second one in it for xy is going to be 0. So I get 7x equals -10. Divide both sides by 7, and I get x equals -10/7. So I'm going to change that into a decimal just because I find that easier to graph. And I've got 10 divided by 7. I get 1.43. So that gives me -1.43. So when x is -1.43, so just under half, y is 0. A little hard to see. Okay. Number 4 says x equals 5. What does that mean? That means I go to the x-axis and I'm at 5, but that means it doesn't matter what y I plug in there. I'm going to get that horizontal line. That's just always going to be true. Same here for when it's y. Y equals 5. I'm going to go to the y-axis, go to 5. Doesn't matter what x is, y is always 5. Okay, let's try another one where I'm going to solve and find where it is. This is going to be my last one. X minus 3y equals 3. I'm going to find plug in 0 for x first. So I've got 0. I want to know what my other one is going to be. So I've got 0 minus 3y equals 3. Divide both sides by -3 because this goes away. and I get y equals -1. So x is 0, y is -1. Found my y-intercept. Now I'm going to plug in a 0 for y. So remember my final product, I am going to have 0 as my point for y. So I get x equals 3, because -3 times 0 is 0. So I'm going to go over 3, up 0, right there. I have graphed my line.